The crystalline spires of New Vale colony gleamed in the setting sun, their surfaces reflecting the orange glow like countless frozen flames. 10-year-old Maya Patel pressed her nose against the window of her mother's research station, watching the towering forms of the luminary move behind the containment field that separated their designated zone from the human settlement. "Maya, step back from the window," Dr. Sarah Patel called out, not looking up from her holographic display. "You know the protocols." But Maya couldn't tear her eyes away from the ethereal beings. Unlike the other colonists who saw only threat in their angular, translucent bodies and the way light fractured through their crystalline forms, she found them beautiful. The luminary had crash-landed on Earth 8 months ago, their ship a spectacular display of broken crystal and light that still jutted from the red desert sand beyond the colony's borders. "Mom, why do they stay so still sometimes?" Maya asked, watching as one particularly tall luminary stood motionless, its surface catching the light in hypnotic patterns. Dr. Patel finally looked up, her dark eyes softening as she regarded her daughter. "We believe they're communicating. The patterns of light that move through their bodies, they're like words to them." Maya nodded, remembering the briefings she'd sat through as the daughter of the colony's lead xenobiologist. The luminari were classified as extreme hazards, their crystalline bodies capable of focusing and redirecting energy in ways that could be devastating. Every child in New Vale knew the rules: stay away from the containment field, report any unusual light patterns, and never ever try to communicate with them. But as Maya watched, she noticed something different about the patterns flowing through the luminari's body. They weren't the sharp, aggressive flashes that the security feeds always showed. These were gentle, almost musical in their rhythm, like ripples in a pond. "Dr. Patel." A voice broke through Maya's contemplation. Commander Victor Drake strode into the research station, his military uniform pristine despite the ever-present desert dust. "Your weekly report is overdue." Maya instinctively stepped away from the window, shrinking back from Drake's imposing presence. Something about the way he looked at the luminari always made her uncomfortable, not with fear, like most people, but with a sense that he was seeing something else entirely. "My apologies, Commander," Dr. Patel replied, her voice cooling several degrees. "The new data required additional analysis. I'll have it to you by morning." Drake's eyes flickered to Maya, then to the window where the luminary still stood. "See that you do. We need to understand their capabilities if we're going to maintain proper containment." As Drake left, Maya noticed the luminary had turned, its faceted surface now oriented directly toward the research station. And for just a moment, she could have sworn she saw a pattern of light that looked exactly like her reflection rippling through its crystalline form. "Mom," Maya whispered, but stopped herself. She knew what she'd seen was impossible. The luminary couldn't mimic images, couldn't communicate in ways humans could understand. That's what everyone said, what all the research showed. But as the sun finally dipped below the horizon and the automatic shields began to lower over the windows, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that everything they thought they knew about the luminary was wrong. And somehow she was going to prove it. Maya couldn't sleep that night. The memory of the luminary's reflection-like pattern kept playing in her mind, like a song she couldn't forget. She tossed and turned in her small bedroom, the soft hum of the colony's environmental systems, usually soothing but now somehow urgent, like it was trying to tell her something. Finally, she slipped out of bed. The digital clock on her wall displayed 2:47 a.m. in gentle blue numbers. Maya knew she shouldn't, knew it was against every rule, but something pulled her toward the research station. Her mother always worked late, and her access card would still be in her jacket pocket, hanging by the door. The corridors of New Vale Colony were eerily quiet at night. The usual bustle of scientists and security personnel was replaced by the soft whisper of recycled air and the distant thrum of machinery. Maya's bare feet made no sound on the polished floors as she made her way to her mother's station. The card worked, just as she'd known it would. Inside, the research station was dark except for the ever-present glow of monitoring equipment, and through the reinforced windows, the natural luminescence of the beings in the containment zone. Maya approached the window slowly, her heart pounding. The luminary from earlier was still there, its crystalline form now glowing with a gentle internal light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the colony's power systems. As Maya watched, transfixed, the patterns within its body began to shift and change, forming shapes she almost recognized. "Hello," Maya whispered, pressing her palm against the cool glass. To her astonishment, the luminary moved closer to the containment field, its own surface rippling with patterns that seemed to reach toward her. The light within it shifted to match the soft blue of her pajamas. Suddenly, Maya felt something, not in her body, but in her mind. It was like hearing music without sound, seeing colors with her eyes closed. The sensation was strange but not frightening. Through this unexpected connection, she understood. The luminary were trying to talk. They had been trying all along. "You're not dangerous at all, are you?" Maya asked softly. "You're just different." The patterns within the crystalline being swirled in response, and Maya felt a wave of what she could only describe as agreement wash over her. But there was more, a sense of urgency, of warning. The luminary was trying to show her something. Before she could understand what it meant, the research station's lights suddenly flared to life. Maya spun around to find Commander Drake standing in the doorway, his face twisted in an expression she'd never seen before. "Well, well," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. "It seems Dr. Patel's daughter has inherited her mother's curiosity. But what else have you inherited, I wonder?" Behind Maya, the luminary's light patterns became sharp, aggressive, not threatening, she realized, but protective. Drake's eyes narrowed as he studied the interaction, and Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the station's temperature control. "Sir, I was just..." Maya began, but Drake cut her off with a raised hand. "You were just making contact with potentially hostile alien species without authorization," he said, stepping closer. "But perhaps this is exactly what we've been waiting for." Guards. 2 security officers appeared in the doorway. Maya backed away, closer to the window, feeling the luminary's presence behind her like a shield of light and crystal. Through their newfound connection, she could sense its concern, its desire to protect her, and underneath it all, a desperate message she still couldn't quite understand. "Take her to medical," Drake ordered. "Full scanning protocol. I want to know exactly how she's communicating with them." As the guards approached, Maya felt something shift in the air around her. The luminary's light patterns suddenly intensified, and for a split second, the containment field flickered. Drake's eyes widened in surprise, then narrowed with calculated interest. "Fascinating," he murmured. "It seems we found our bridge after all." Maya wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. As the guards led her away, she looked back one last time at the luminary. Its patterns had formed into a clear image, a perfect representation of Maya's own frightened face, surrounded by what looked like a promise of protection. She understood now what her mother had missed in all her research, what Drake had been searching for all along. The luminary weren't just communicating through light, they were reaching out with something deeper, something that only a child's open mind could perceive. And now that connection, that bridge between species, would either save them both or destroy everything. Dr. Sarah Patel's footsteps echoed through the sterile corridors of the medical wing as she rushed toward her daughter. The call had come at 3 a.m. Maya found in the research station unauthorized contact with the luminary, Commander Drake personally overseeing the situation. Each detail made her heart race faster. She found Maya sitting on an examination table, surrounded by scanning equipment. The girl's dark eyes were clear and unafraid, despite the chaos she had caused. Sarah fought back both relief and anger as she approached. "What were you thinking?" she whispered, pulling Maya into a tight embrace. Over her daughter's shoulder, she could see Drake watching through the observation window, his expression unreadable. "Mom, they're not what we think they are," Maya said urgently. "The luminary, they're trying to talk to us. I can feel it. They're scared." Before Sarah could respond, Drake entered the room, followed by a team of researchers she didn't recognize. Their uniforms bore no colony insignia, and their equipment looked far more advanced than anything in her laboratory. "Dr. Petal," Drake said smoothly, "your daughter has demonstrated a rather remarkable ability. One that could change everything we thought we knew about the Luminary." Sarah stepped between Drake and Maya. "She's just a child who broke the rules, Commander. Nothing more." "The scans suggest otherwise." Drake gestured, and one of his researchers projected a hologram into the air. It showed Maya's neural patterns alongside recorded light sequences from the Luminary. The similarities were impossible to miss. "Your daughter isn't just seeing their light patterns, Doctor. She's resonating with them. Her brain waves synchronize with their energy signatures in a way we've never seen before." Drake's voice held an edge of triumph. "She's a natural interface." Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Whatever you're thinking, Commander, the answer is no. Maya isn't going to be your lab rat." "I'm afraid that's not your decision to make." Drake's pleasant mask slipped slightly. "This is a matter of planetary security now. The Luminary possess energy manipulation capabilities that could revolutionize our defense systems or destroy us completely. We need to understand them, control them, and your daughter is the key." "That's what this has all been about, hasn't it?" Sarah's mind raced, connecting dots she should have seen months ago. The containment wasn't for protection, it was for study, for weapons development. Drake smiled thinly. "The Luminary crashed here for a reason, Doctor. Their ship's energy core was depleted. They're trapped, dependent on our power grid to maintain their crystalline forms. Did you really think the military would pass up such an opportunity?" Maya suddenly spoke up, her voice stronger than Sarah had ever heard it. "They're not trapped. They're waiting." All eyes turned to the girl. Drake's smile faltered slightly. "Waiting for what?" "I don't know exactly," Maya said, "but they showed me something. Their patterns, they're building towards something big." Sarah watched Drake's expression shift from confidence to calculation. She recognized the look. It was the same one he wore when ordering increased security measures, when pushing for more invasive research protocols. "Then we're running out of time," Drake said. He nodded to his team. "Prepare the girl for transfer. We'll begin the interface trials immediately." "Like hell you will," Sarah snarled, pulling Maya closer. But security personnel were already moving into position around them. "Mom," Maya whispered, "it's okay. I think this is what's supposed to happen." Before Sarah could question what her daughter meant, alarms began blaring throughout the colony. The lights flickered, and through the medical wing's windows, they could see the containment field around the Luminary zone pulsing with unusual patterns. Drake rushed to the window, his composure cracking. "What are they doing?" "They're not doing anything," Maya said calmly. "They're just letting me see. All this time, you've been so worried about their power, their energy. But that's not what makes them special." She looked up at her mother, then back to Drake. "It's their connection. To each other. To everything around them. And now to me." As if in response to her words, the entire colony plunged into darkness. When the emergency lights flickered on seconds later, the containment field had changed. The Luminary's crystalline forms were glowing brighter than ever before, their light patterns synchronized in a display that made the air itself seem to vibrate with energy. And Maya, still sitting calmly on the examination table, was glowing too, a soft, crystalline light emanating from beneath her skin. The game of secrets and lies was over. The real test of understanding between humans and Luminary was about to begin. The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across the medical wing as chaos erupted around them. Security personnel rushed back and forth, their voices sharp with panic. Through the windows, the Luminary's synchronized light display had transformed the containment zone into a sea of pulsing energy. "Containment protocols." Drake barked into his communicator. "Full lockdown, now." But Maya remained perfectly still, the crystalline glow beneath her skin growing stronger. Sarah watched in awe as patterns of light, similar to those of the luminary, began flowing across her daughter's arms. "Maya," Sarah whispered, "what's happening to you?" "I understand now, Mom," Maya said, her voice carrying an odd resonance. "They've been trying to show us all along. The crash wasn't an accident. They came here looking for us, looking for someone who could understand." Drake spun toward them, his face contorted with rage. "Secure the girl. Whatever connection she has with them, we need to control it." But as the security team moved forward, the lights throughout the colony flickered again. This time, when they stabilized, every screen, every holographic display, every piece of electronic equipment in the medical wing burst to life. Images flashed across them, not the usual data streams and security feeds, but memories. The Luminaries' memories. Their homeworld, a crystalline paradise of light and energy. The discovery of Earth's unique energy signatures. Their journey across the stars, not as refugees or invaders, but as seekers. They had detected something rare in humanity, a potential for connection that went beyond physical form. "They're not trapped here," Maya explained, her eyes reflecting the dancing lights around them. "They chose to stay. To wait for someone who could bridge the gap between our species, someone young enough to see past fear, someone who could learn their language of light." Drake laughed bitterly. "And they chose a child. Do you expect me to believe that their grand plan revolves around a 10-year-old girl?" "Children see truth where adults see threats," Sarah found herself saying, understanding finally dawning. Maya's mind isn't clouded by prejudice or agenda. She saw them as they are, not as what we feared they might be. The colony's power grid fluctuated wildly as Maya slid off the examination table. Where her feet touched the floor, tiny crystals began to form, spreading outward like frost on a window. "You have to make a choice now, Maya," Drake said, his voice turning smooth persuasive. "Help us understand their power, their technology. Think of what humanity could achieve with their knowledge." But Maya shook her head. "That's not the choice at all. The real choice is whether humanity is ready to learn a new way of seeing, of connecting." She looked up at her mother. "Of trusting." Outside, the Luminaries' light display had reached a crescendo. The containment field rippled like water, its energy patterns matching the crystals spreading across the medical wing's floor. "Last chance," Drake warned, drawing his weapon. "You're either with humanity, or you're with them." Maya smiled, a gesture that held wisdom far beyond her years. "That's where you're wrong, Commander. There is no us and them. There's only life, trying to understand other life. And right now, you're the only one here choosing sides." As if in response to her words, the crystalline growth reached the walls, transforming the sterile medical bay into something alien and beautiful. The light patterns within them matched Maya's own internal glow, creating a network of energy that hummed with potential. Sarah watched as her daughter extended one glowing hand toward Drake and the security team, and the other toward the luminary beyond the windows. In that moment, she understood what the aliens had known all along. The real power wasn't in their ability to manipulate energy or create crystals. It was in their ability to offer a choice. Continue down the path of fear and control, or embrace a new way of existence, one that could transform both species forever. The next few seconds would determine not just the fate of New Vale Colony, but possibly the future of human-alien relations across the galaxy. And it all rested in the hands of a child who had dared to look at monsters and see only potential friends. The crystalline transformation of the medical wing had created something entirely new, a space that was neither human nor luminary, but a perfect fusion of both. The patterns of light flowing through the crystals pulsed in harmony with Maya's heartbeat, creating a symphony of energy that seemed to speak directly to everyone's souls. Drake's weapon trembled in his hand. "Stand down," he ordered Maya, but his voice lacked its usual authority. "This is your final warning." "No, Commander." Sarah stepped forward, placing her hand on Maya's shoulder. "This is yours." The crystals had reached the ceiling now, their light casting rainbow refractions across every surface. Through their translucent faces, Sarah could see the luminary outside moving closer to the containment field, their own crystalline bodies resonating with the same frequency as the transformed medical wing. "Mom," Maya whispered, "they want to show everyone what they showed me, but they need help. They need all of us to be willing to see." Before Drake could respond, his communicator crackled to life. "Sir, the containment field, it's not failing, it's changing. The energy signatures are unlike anything we've recorded." The commander's face paled as he looked at his own hands, where tiny crystals had begun to form, not spreading like an infection, but growing like flowers blooming in spring. The security team behind him stood frozen, watching as their own bodies began to shimmer with internal light. What is this?" Drake demanded, but the fear in his voice had been replaced by something else: wonder. "It's communication," Maya explained, her voice carrying that strained resonance that seemed to echo in everyone's minds. "Real communication. Not just words or signals, but complete understanding. The Luminari don't just manipulate energy, they are energy. And so are we in our own way. We just forgot how to see it." Through the windows, the containment field rippled one final time before dissolving completely. But the Luminari didn't surge forward to attack. Instead, they moved with deliberate grace, their crystalline forms creating a circle around the medical wing. As they moved, their light patterns synchronized with the crystals inside, creating a connection that bridged the physical barrier between the buildings. Sarah gasped as images and emotions flooded her consciousness. She saw the Luminaries' journey through space, felt their excitement at discovering Earth, understood their patient wait for humanity to be ready for contact. But more than that, she experienced their perspective on humanity, the fierce love they had witnessed between parents and children, the resilient spirit that drove humans to explore and discover, the capacity for change that made them unique among all the species the Luminari had encountered. "They're not here to change us," Maya said, watching as the crystalline glow spread through the gathering crowd of colony personnel who had been drawn to the medical wing. "They're here to remind us of what we already are." Drake's weapon clattered to the floor as he stared at his transformed hands. The light flowing through him showed not just his current thoughts and emotions, but the long-buried hopes and dreams that had led him to military service in the first place, a desire to protect, to understand, to be part of something greater than himself. "All this time," he whispered, "we were looking for weapons, for advantages, but this is evolution." Sarah finished for him, understanding at last. Not forced, not controlled, but offered, a gift we can choose to accept. The crystals had spread beyond the medical wing now, racing through the colony's corridors like rivers of light. Everywhere they touched, people stopped their panic and began to experience the same transformation, not a takeover, but an awakening. Through it all, Maya stood at the center, a bridge between two species that had never really been separate at all. Her small form glowed with a combined light of human and luminary energy, proving that the greatest barriers had never been physical, but perceptual. "It's time," Maya said, looking up at her mother with eyes that now held galaxies. "Time to show everyone what the Luminari came here to share." Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand, feeling the energy pulse between them like a shared heartbeat. The real test wasn't going to be in containing or controlling this power, but in learning to live with it, to grow with it, to let it transform not just their bodies, but their understanding of what it meant to be alive in a universe full of wonders. As the light spread outward from New Vela Colony, carrying with it the promise of a new chapter in human history, Sarah realized that the story of humanity's first true contact with alien life would not be written in terms of conquest or conflict, but in the simple, pure acceptance of a child who had dared to see beauty where others saw only threat. 1 month after what historians would later call the luminescence, New Vela Colony had become unrecognizable. The harsh angular buildings had been transformed into flowing crystalline structures that seemed to grow from the desert itself. Light pulsed through the colony's new architecture like blood through veins, carrying not just power but consciousness, the shared thoughts and feelings of both humans and Luminari. Maya sat cross-legged in what had once been the research station, now a vast chamber of living crystal where both species gathered to learn from each other. Around her, a group of children, both human and Luminari, practiced manipulating light patterns in the air, their laughter creating ripples of color that danced across the walls. Remember, Maya guided them, her own light patterns flowing smoothly through her crystalline-enhanced form. It's not about controlling the energy, it's about becoming part of it. Sarah watched from the chamber's entrance, marveling at how naturally the children adapted to their new abilities. The Luminari younglings, their forms smaller and more delicate than the adults, had proven just as eager to learn human ways as human children were to master light speaking. Still hard to believe, isn't it? A familiar voice said beside her. Commander Drake, now Administrator Drake, stood watching the scene with a peaceful expression that would have been unimaginable a month ago. The crystalline patterns flowing beneath his skin pulsed with calm blues and greens, a far cry from the angry reds that had once dominated his energy signature. That your daughter changed everything we thought we knew about alien contact, or that you're now leading the Integration Council? Sarah asked with a slight smile. Drake chuckled, the sound creating small bursts of golden light around him. Both, all of it. We were so focused on defense, on control, we never considered that true strength might come from opening ourselves to change. Beyond the chamber's transparent walls, the desert stretched endlessly under the setting sun. But now it was dotted with crystalline growths, a new ecosystem born from the merger of human and Luminari influence. Scientists had discovered that the crystals were actually purifying the air and soil, healing damage done by centuries of human activity. The first ships arrive tomorrow, Sarah noted, watching a group of Luminari elders teaching human scientists about energy manipulation. Are we ready to share this with the rest of humanity? Thanks to Maya, we are. Drake's expression grew thoughtful. The world will need guys. People who understand that this isn't about losing our humanity, but expanding it. In the center of the chamber, Maya had begun teaching a new lesson. As Sarah watched, her daughter created a complex pattern of light that took the form of Earth as seen from space. Then, with a gentle gesture, she added thousands of tiny points of light, other worlds, other possibilities. The Luminari weren't just looking for someone who'd understand them. Maya explained to her attentive audience. They were looking for a species that could help them connect with others. Humans aren't just students in this exchange. We're meant to be teachers too. The image expanded, showing possible paths between stars, connections waiting to be made. The children gasped in wonder, their own light patterns reaching out to touch the display, adding their own dreams and interpretations to the cosmic map. We really aren't alone anymore, are we? Sarah mused aloud. Drake shook his head. We never were. We just needed a child's eyes to help us see it. As if in response to his words, the entire chamber filled with a soft, harmonious light. Hundreds of individual patterns merging into a single expression of unity. Human and Luminari, adult and child, each unique yet part of a greater whole. Maya stood in the middle of it all, no longer just a bridge between species, but a symbol of what humanity could become. Her small face bore a wisdom that transcended her years as she looked up at the cosmic display she had created. This is just the beginning, she said, her voice carrying that melodic resonance that seemed to touch both mind and heart. There are so many others out there, waiting to connect, waiting to share their own kinds of light. As the sun set on another day in New Vela Colony, its light refracting through crystalline structures in 1,000 rainbow hues, Sarah realized that the true gift of the Luminari hadn't been their technology or their energy manipulation abilities. It had been the reminder that sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from conquering or controlling, but from the simple willingness to see the world through new eyes. And somewhere out there, across the vast expanse of space, other species were waiting, not for humanity's weapons or defenses, but for their newfound ability to bridge the gaps between different forms of life, to find light in the darkness between stars, and to transform fear into understanding. The story of Maya and the Luminari will be told countless times across generations, not as a tale of first contact, but as a reminder that in the heart of every child lies the power to change the universe, one connection at a time.